whatever you're, or actually, I'll do a little intro. All right, so we're mostly on time. So welcome everybody. We got some new faces today. Those of you that do not know what Fortuna Found is, we set up stuff like this. We do video tutorials. If you have to dip out to like go fly or something, this whole thing's being recorded. We'll have it posted on the YouTube channel. I've got little cards if you need to find it. But yeah, so longtime friend of mine and mentor, Ron Gibian. I even have one of his kites hanging in my house over my bed. Yeah. That kite moves and it's, sorry, Ron.
You're looking at it, it's out there flying.
Yeah, I look up at it.
In my lifetime, I've been hanging all kinds of shady places, but never anything like this.
In a bedroom. Yeah.
Admit it.
The best
Man,
part,
I'm telling you.
I'll pull the kite out later, but it's called Serendipity, and it has a woman's face on it, so it's like looking down at me from.
Kites have been hanging in places, or you've been hanging.
You brought that kite here. We should we should assemble it.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to actually have it here.
I'll pull it out after I get everything.
Pull the skin out and show people the skin, the nature of the sin that you're talking about.
And the framing.
The nature of the sin that you're talking about that we're committing here.
So, anyways, one of the questions I get a lot to Fortuna Found and to the YouTube channel and my everything else I do is like, okay, I want to start building a kite. How do I know where to put the sticks, right? Let alone, how do I know how to bridle it? This is just going to be a short little like taste of like how you can kind of start thinking about that. It's not the answer, it's just an answer. And like Ron and everybody else is going to tell you, they're going to say, you just play around with it till you figure it out. But I like setting up people for success and at least getting kind of a little bit of a start. And Ron has been really, really good about doing that with me over the years. So I asked him to kind of give a talk on framing and bridles. And then very, very last thing before I hand it over to Ron. So about 1 o'clock today, we're also doing like a master's roundtable. So if you have like a kite that you're like, I don't get it, right? Or you want to ask a question, they're all going to be hanging out here. So come and pester, ask questions. Rhonda's going to be tying wherever Rhonda
Went to get a rope.
is going to be tying all sorts of knots.
To hang you.
If you want to know knots and stuff like that. And then 3 p.m., we're doing a challenge. This is for everybody, whether you're experienced, whether you've never built a kite or not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present a shape, and then everybody is going to figure out some way to frame that shape. And then we're just going to do a quick, like, why did you choose that? You know, what are you looking for? Stuff like that. And you'll be surprised, even the simplest shapes, there's going to be so many different ways that you can do it. So this is just kind of a playground thing, having fun. So hand this over to Ron, and I'll get the other camera going, and I'll go get that kite out.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? My name is Ron Gibian. So far, for as long as it's been since I've been in this business, I think I'm already fossilized. I feel Jurassic. It's been a long time and a long journey of sharing knowledge, getting knowledge, and doing things with people and learning by looking and watching and just taking it all in, stealing what makes sense to me and throwing away the things that don't. So no exception here this weekend. Listening to some of the other presenters and some of the things that they had to say was also great inspiration for this particular talk, you know, which I'll try to cover more than just the framing and the bridling. I'll go into figure kites, which is something that I've done a lot of, besides my modified shapes, you know, with my own personal art on them. They're nothing but derivatives of other things, but the figure kites are always totally original, you know, whether it's a creature, a bird, or whatever. This is a really radical example of that. And the reason why I brought that in, because the framing in that particular kite and the bridling is complex, but that particular kite demonstrates all the things that I'm going to be talking about all in one kite. That's the reason why I brought that one specifically. So, let me erase some things here. So we'll be talking about bridling and framing.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
Can you actually move this back just a little bit?
Sure.
Because you got like folks over on the side. That
Well, yeah, it's kind of filled
Get a
up a
little
little
bit
bit.
more
It's kind of filled up a
real
little bit.
estate.
It's kind of
Yeah.
filled up a little bit. Where's my pen? Okay. The first thing I like to do, you guys are probably wondering what this shirt is doing here and why it's here. The person who owned this shirt was really, really, really special to me. And when we're talking about premier kite makers, this guy embodied everything that kite making is all about. Good dear friend of mine from Australia, Trevor Reeves, who passed away a few days ago. So when we're talking about the old saying, I would give you the shirt off my back, this guy exemplified that. We're in Cervia, Italy at a festival, and I'm admiring this shirt, expressing to him how much I'm enjoying the looks of this shirt because I like this Aboriginal artwork, which is typical of Australia. The next morning he comes up to me with a cup of coffee and with this shirt neatly folded, clean, and hands it to me. Every time I remember that story, it almost brings tears to my eyes. So a moment of silence for this great man that just passed away a few days. I would really appreciate it, folks. Okay. So, rest in peace, Trevor Reeves. I'm sure some of you are familiar with his work, seen it online everywhere. Very prolific in the European, well, throughout the international circuit, providing us all with eye candy that was just absolutely incredible to look at. But the spirit of this man was just absolutely incredible, you know. So, bridles and framing. The first thing I like to say about that, don't separate the bridles and the framing so much. We concentrate on just framing the kite, and then we try to figure out the bridles. But right out of the gate, be thinking how we're going to marry that frame with the bridles. And the reason why I'm saying this, to me, they're very related, because bridles are also support. Multiple bridles and multiple points enable you to use a lighter frame so we don't overbuild, so we don't put bigger sticks than we need, okay, into that frame. So, for example, if we take whoop, can I get a pen that writes?
I've got better ones.
Okay.
Yeah, geez, your frame is. Let me get you a nice. Try that one. Is that better?
Yeah, a little. Let's take an Eddy kite, right? This long rectangular thing that some of you may not be familiar with if you're just beginning. And we have one spar here, we have another one here, and another one here, and another one here. These are your cross spreaders. And let's put 3 spines on it. Okay? These can go into pockets or end caps or 3D printed fittings. Mine have adjusters on it, which is another part that Lindsay invented that's got screws on it that you can adjust the tension so you can really tighten the sail. I'm crazy about tight sails. No wrinkles anywhere. When I finish a kite, now comes the nip and tuck section of the kite, or the construction part of the kite. Oh, I got a little wrinkle here or there. How are we going to pull that out, right? Are we going to do it with the tensioning, or was it my construction because of the fabric orientation, which means that maybe one piece of that was oriented in a different direction and it's stretching differently, which is something else I'll cover, the fabric orientation, the grid. So we got a bridle point there, there, and there. And then we have another one here, 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 and here. That would be the typical, right? So typically we think that, well, this kite is as tall as this tent. So therefore, we got to go with large sticks. So I'm going to say to you that perhaps with the spines, you need stiffness and something a little bit larger. But for crossbreeders, you can go with very small, solid carbon rods. Of course, we want that kite to stand completely stiff without any twist on the ground, right? But the moment you put bridles on it, so what I'm saying here is that I can get away with using really, really, really small sticks here, in millimeters. It could be a 2100 stick in here, small. And the same thing for the cross sticks. And of course, it's going to be like a magic carpet. It's going to twist on the ground. But what are we worried about? We're worried about how is it going to look in the sky? What's it going to do in the sky? Well, all these bridles, we got this going on. Then we got this going on. And that going on, and to that. And the other set here, right? Then we're going to connect that to that, that to that, and that to that with a toe point right here. If it's a Japanese kite like this, I'm not into doing the cascade bridles. I like the original Japanese style, which I will show you. Here I'm showing you a cascade. This is a floating ring. That is a fixed point, fixed point, fixed point. Those are all even. These loops can be equal. This one can be a little bit longer. So all of this is open and sliding, and this is the fixed point. So when you adjust this point, all the rest of these bridles follow. So you only make one adjustment, okay? You adjust your toe point, and then everything else follows, okay? But my point here is not so much this particular setup on the bridles as much as all the support that all these points are given to that frame, okay? Yeah, that's right. Some of you guys can't see that.
Here's a purple.
Yeah, the color ones are the best ones.
So with this in mind, you can keep this in mind for all shapes. Let's take a basic Eddy kite. Number one, what do we want to do with an Eddy kite to have good balance?
Tail.
Tailless.
God, Lindsay, you.
And by the way, this particular talk is about dialogue and stuff. So if people have questions or commentary, we can do them while I'm talking, okay? Or ask questions. So let's say this is a large Eddy. What would be my preference? Some people, your classic Eddy is bridled this way, right? 2 points. Some people put 1 point on it so it floats flat in the sky, but you don't have much of a adjustment, left to right or whatever. So I'm more inclined to put a point here, and one here, maybe even 2 here if it's really large. And we make a 1-point cascade with a floating ring there, and we come up here to this one. Well, let me erase this, and that's getting messy there. What'd I do?
There's an eraser on the end of that marker.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. But keep this concept in mind as I move along to other ideas and stuff like that about the effect that your bridle's multiple points like this is having on that frame, supporting it. The bow, when you bow this carpet, when it's flat, it's floppy. But the moment you bow it, it also starts creating tension on it. So now we have the thing is curved and we have all that bridle support, and when the kite goes up in the air, it's nice and tight and very flyable with a really, really light frame. I mean, I've made these things before and people look and goes, wow, how does this, these tiny sticks, how does that work? Bridles supporting that frame. So I was back to an Eddy here. Let's add the wings on it, and we got an astral glide. So this guy has got this system of bridling, a 1-point cascade, a sliding ring there, 2 points up here with a fixed point there, and a connecting loop with your toe point here that's fixed. So when you move this toe point, this also moves, okay? The classic Eddy is just one. This has also great frame support. This also, because of these bridle points that are here, is not necessary to put huge sticks in it, okay? Now, when it comes to framing, people have asked many times, how do you know, okay? And you heard this in all the other workshops that we did here, trial and error. You have to dip in, you have to sacrifice time, a little bit of money. My suggestion is arm yourself with a lot of different size sticks. Solid carbon, solid fiberglass, wrapped carbon tubes, protruded carbon tubes. Bend them. See the feel of that stick. See how stiff it is. Okay, now when you start, for instance, you can take a protruded carbon rod, and by itself it's incredibly stiff, very hard to bend. But now we're going to ferrule 2 more to it. And you take it to the ground, and now that thing has got a lot of flex. Is that enough to support this length to make that stiff? Maybe not. Now we have to step up in size. That's where that trial and error part comes in. It's knowing what that stick is capable of doing, okay? And then when it comes to the figure kites, where we got to put a small rod inside of a sleeve to support a curve, that comes even more into play, where you don't want to press that carbon rod into more than what it's capable of arcing. And that's how you design your curve. If your curve needs to be bigger or deeper, then perhaps we need to go to a smaller stick that will bend, or fiberglass, which is incredibly flexible. A little heavier, but incredibly, you can literally bend it in half, okay? So, testing a lot with different sticks, feeling the density of that stick, how stiff it is, how much you can bend it, what you can do by combining 2 or 3 or 4 for, let's say, a spine, and see how stiff that is or not. Where you know that you need to upsize, go a little bit larger. Then comes in the game of wrapped carbon tubes, okay, which are incredibly stiff. Whether they're thin wall or heavy wall, it's an incredible, a length of, you rev, guys, the folks that fly revs, they know exactly, how stiff those are. I use them in spines a lot, and sometimes they look quite large in my kites. And everybody goes, oh my God, man, that's a huge stick in there, I want that spine to be really stiff, but those sticks also weigh nothing. They have no weight consequence to the kite, which is another thing to keep in mind after you add all your sticks, your graphics, the weight of your fabric, whether it's 3/4 ounce, 1.5 ounces, Icarex, 3/4 ounce, 1/2 ounce, all these things have an effect. How much graphic you've put in that, in terms of black bindings and separators and parts and all that, that also have a great deal to do with the weight. So is your frame and the overall sail capable of lifting all of that? Also comes into the equation. And that all comes by feel and experimentation, and it comes around very quickly. You discover what works where and what doesn't work in other places. So it's experimentation. Let's take a so the Eddy Kite should be a basis to pretty much all your construction, okay? And the reason why I say that, for balance, and this applies, because we can take and build a figure kite or any other kind of kite around this shape. We can put extremities, we can put something here, something here, something here, but the balance of the kite really happens right here in this cross. So what I'm referring to, that the cross stick on any kite, on a cellular kite, on this kind of a kite or on any kite, the distance between here and here should never exceed over 15% of the overall length of the kite.
One side?
No more than 15%, right?
15.
Yes. 12 is ideal, right? So we got some kind of weird shape like this, and it's only going to have one cross stick and maybe something else on the bottom, and you want that kite to balance properly. You need to keep in mind your main cross stick, where your bridles are going to be hooked up to. That's where the kite's going to fly from. Because a lot of times people ask, man, you build all these weird shapes and all this, how do you know it's going to fly? I didn't at one time. Learning this basics, is what made that happen. 15%, 1/5 of this distance here, or thereabouts, no matter what you build, you know, if it gets complex or easy. So it's still all based on this principle here on the Eddy. I started following this and things began to get better and better and better. In my early years, I was building one of each. How many of you have had that feeling? You come to a festival like this and you see stuff here, there, and you get into kite making and said, oh, I want to make that, I want to make that, I want to make that. You know, and you end up making all these things and they fly kind of marginally because the concepts that I'm talking about are not quite there yet. So learning, and that's what was happening to me. I was building this grand things, figure kites and all these kind of things, and there I am on the field struggling to make these things flights, and I'd get them to fly. But at one point, I said, I need to go to some workshops. I need to learn some basics here to make a decent platform in where I can put my artwork. So I'm not struggling with these things. And it enables me to fly just about anything, you know. Since then, applying this principle is making things work for me. And it's not for every single kite. I mean, this particular kite is a multi-bridle, multi-stick kite. Yeah, I need to.
Okay, real loud.
Huh?
Speak up real loud.
I have been.
Yeah, it's hard to hear you.
Oh, back out there.
Yeah. Love you.
So this kite, I'm concentrating most of my balanced effort on this one here, okay? In spite of all the other sticks that it's got. Let's see. Round kites. Yes.
Here's the new race here.
Oh, there's a good one, yeah.
Here's a couple 2mm, 1 fiberglass, 1 carbon if you want to demonstrate stiffness.
Oh, there's the other race. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I didn't prepare any paperwork or anything. I like my stuff spontaneous because I like people to jump in and ask questions and stuff like that. So I don't do scripts of any kind. So, round kites. I've been asked about round kites a lot because I've flown and made quite a few. And we're probably going to go there during this the shape thing. Okay. So back to a figure kite, because that is a figure kite. This requires sleeves. So let's say another one there. What I'm talking about is that you have to have a sleeve in there to run a stick to hold the round shape. You cannot hold the round shape just with cross sticks. You can put a whole bunch of them, but you're going to have flapping areas. So anything that's curved,
You
ooh,
have an example right there.
where did you get that sexy thing?
I don't
What?
know.
Turn it up, show
Well,
folks.
here's the sleeve that Ron's talking about to create this round shape that pops out here.
Right?
It's this little strip of white.
And that pocket can be made in different ways. You can take them outside of the kite, you can cut a shape, sew the edge, then turn it inside out, and then sew it to the kite. Or what you see there, which is this, folding one edge up so the stick, you know, when you put the stick in, it doesn't stick, it doesn't get caught up in there. So you have a little fold over sleeve, and then you can pass the stick through it and you connect it. So if this is a small kite, carbon won't work. I don't care how little it is. It'll break at the furrows. Here's where fiberglass really comes into the picture. Big or small. There's for instance,
Yeah, you want to pass that around?
well, try to give it to me earlier.
So carbon.
This is tiny carbon, okay? But even this stuff, okay, this is fiberglass. This bends a lot more, you can see that. Much stiffer. Pass it around and see the difference between the two. But as that expands and gets bigger as you ferrule it, it starts to become more flexible. But my findings have been that in a circle maybe that big, if I put carbon around there and then I use a piece of brass, which I always cover with heat shrink tubing, because I don't like the look of the gold brass, it looks cheap, so I covered, so I want it in black. So I cover it with heat shrink tubing. Everyone knows what that is, right? Pretty much. Buy it at the hardware store with a heat gun or whatever, hair dryer. It breaks at the ferrule. The ferrule chews into it and breaks it. In some cases, you can go plastic. In some cases, yes, you can go plastic. So when you join, whatever you're joining, maybe here, here, depending on how big this thing, and then finally here, I always leave enough space between the sleeves so it gives me room to join. And the same thing up on top, and I typically make the ring, the outer ring, bigger than it needs to be. So it kind of turns it a little bit into kind of like a potato chip, it twists. But that's what's going to keep it tight. So when you put the spreaders on and all the rest of the sticks and you spread it out, it flattens out. And then plus the bow. So it's going to have a spine, okay? And you would think that you could put another one in the center. The stick needs to be somewhere in here. Above center. This is center, above center. That's also experimentation. I would say even if you're just 3 or 4 inches or 5 inches above center of the kite, you're okay, because this is the one we're going to bow, okay? And then we're going to run cross sticks here, like that. And we're going to bow from here to here. That shape gives round circle guidance. Circular kites are unstable by themselves and they require tails, most generally, okay? So at least that gives it a little bit of guidance. And the sky is going to oval out a little bit. It's going to take a little bit more of an oval shape, but it's not very noticeable. It's still very round. There's another way of making a round kite by doing the same thing we did here. That's called a 1-1. This is also a Japanese 1-1. So it's the same deal. We're creating a grid. That grid is what keeps that kite stiff, okay? So what applies to a rectangular one applies the same. So we build a round kite, but it still requires the framing around the perimeter, around the outside, but with this grid of framing and bridling. So now we've got a round Edo, basically. Okay.
Real quick, I have a question for you, right?
Sure.
So pretty much everything you've just described is all on the idea that you want a taut sail.
Well, yes, yeah, but that's a perfect. That's a.
But there are people who you want some billow in the sail, and
Right.
so it may be framed a little differently, or would you?
Where I'm
like
gonna.
a rokaku.
Let's take a rokaku.
Those flow tails.
So, back to what I was talking earlier on the eddy, where that cross stake is at the top. Too sharp of a point or too much nose, which is this area, these triangles, it's like putting on the brakes. It will never reach zenith. You pull, you raise the toe point, you try to adjust and adjust and adjust. Somehow the kite only reaches here. Okay? What's happening is the wind is pushing here, and it's pushing here, and you see a large billow there, and it's shoving the kite right back into the ground. And that'll happen with any kite that has similar shape. If I build my Astroglide, which is a long eddy, there's a bunch of them flying up there now, and my nose is up here too high, too much distance between the first spreader, same thing's going to happen. The kite will never reach zenith. Okay? Now, do we need this sail super tight? And I think this is what Nick is talking about. No, we need this to billow. This adds stability, but it also spillage. It spills wind. Wind spilling out of the side also creates stability, but it creates lift. But where do we need the lift? We need it here. How many times have we seen a rokaku where the billow is like dab smack in the middle? It's pushing here. It's flying. It's built properly up here, so no brakes up there. But somehow we got this enormous billow in the middle of the sail here. Somehow we got to get this billow to be here in this upper part to create that lift. Okay? In order to do that, this comes into play, big time. The height of the nose of the kite. The other thing that happens if this is too shallow, you don't have enough nose on the kite, it'll overfly. It'll come right over you. Okay? Sometimes the billow up here has got to do with fabric construction, fabric orientation. Okay, most of you who build know just how important fabric orientation is. No matter how many pieces you have, trying to make it, if it's a symmetrical design, you know, you can either point the fabric up the roll, which has the least amount of pull, right? The next best thing is across the width of the fabric, and the no-no in some cases is the bias. Okay, where you pull across the bias in a diagonal. That part right there sometimes has good play in a sail, particularly in sport kites with multiple graphics and pieces. Sometimes that can be helpful in keeping the sail tight. So, this is really, I mean, to me, that's been the difference when I'm watching 15 rokakus fly, which I've had to judge at competition, you know, trying to see who's the best flyer, who's the highest angle. You know, when all things are equal, they're all gorgeous, they're all beautiful, they all look fantastic, but I got to pick one kite that's got the highest angle, flies the best. And typically that kite has got this quality about it, where I see the billow on the upper part, okay? Depends on the graphics, whatever is on there. Like I said, fabric orientation. Okay, so orientation. We're going to do that rokaku. Again, What I'm talking about is that the grid is all facing in the same direction. Okay? The other option is that you point in this direction, and the same thing on the other side. So it's the same thing on one side as on the other. Up the roll is the least amount of stretch. Across the width is the second best, and on the bias, you have the most stretch. Okay? So bridles, simple, right? Standard bridles.
Depends on the
Say
kite.
that again, Ron. Bridles are simple.
But it depends again. It depends on the kite. It depends on the amount of skill. But bridles are intimidating. But what I want you to think is the relationship of those bridles to the frame of the kite, and where to put those points to give that frame support. Okay. So that's your simple standard rokaku here with an adjustable point there. A yoke, fixed points. That's simple. And if we had to add something to the middle, it could be the same thing, unnecessarily though, because that's the way we do a rokaku, typically. I'm sorry, what?
Did you add any bridles to your circular kite? I just saw the frame of it.
Okay, so we're going to go back to that, and we said that we had a spreader there and a spine, and then we got cross sticks like that. I'm bridling from here and here. A 3-point, just like an eddy. A yoke and a connecting loop with your toe point. Just like the 3-point eddy. Same thing. And then boat from your spreader. Okay? Now, I'm getting ready to experiment again with round kites with a little bit different framing. And see if it works, which I think it will.
Ron,
Yes.
one more thing on bridles. Do you prefer longer bridles or shorter bridles?
Longer. Longer bridles. On certain kites, though, not necessary. For instance, on my glides or eddies on some kites, when that top yoke is extremely long and you're trying to do a lift off, and I just take the kite and throw it, right? Just like you guys do with the rev. You just boom and then grab it. I do the same thing with a single line kite. I just chuck it. Some of you. Anyway, I throw the kite, let it go back glide, and then I yank on the line. But sometimes too long a bridle can get caught on the nose of the kite. And now the thing is spinning all over and I got to start all over again. So it depends on the kite. But when it comes to these guys, you know, the multiple cascade bridles, I prefer them long. 2.5 times the height of the kite, at least.
Why is that?
Well, couple things. The practical reason is that I can fly the kite from the bridle. Let's say I got a brand new kite in my hands. I did this whole cascade with them and I got all these lines going out there. All my connecting loops, which most of the times the length of those loops really doesn't make a difference. But suppose that one is too long, because now that dangle of those bridles, I can't seem to, when I move the toe point, I can't seem to stretch out the rest of it. You know, it still has a dangle there that is not going to enable me, or not going to enable that bridle to work properly, okay? So I'm able to fly it from the ground. Those bridles are long. I've got the toe point in my hand, and I can sit there and play with it and see where that toe point needs to be to see what that bridle is doing, okay? And then I hook a line to it and release it into the sky. So that's one advantage. Being far away from that kite and being able to fly it from my hand without hooking a line, and I can see what those bridles are doing.
Where do the floating points occur in such
Ring.
a bridle?
The floating,
Where do they occur in such a bridle? Everywhere, or no? You've got to have
No.
something fixed.
in this loop right here, you see that first loop here? There's a floating ring there. And then this other loop connecting to another floating ring there. And then up here, and this is fixed. This is your toe point. I'm gonna go over this thing.
Thank you.
That's the cascade bridle. I'm not there yet.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and we do have a video we've been working on about a cascade bridle. It should be up shortly. It's complex and long, right? So that would be a whole nother like 2 hours of like how do you build a cascade bridle.
Thank you.
But there's do you have a cascade on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think on that one back there, so we can.
That one is a two-step. That one's got its own independent bridles on the. I'm gonna go to that guy. It's very complex.
Give you an idea of what it looks like.
So here's another one that looks like a basketball or a baseball or whatever. You know. I'm gonna go ahead and experiment with this kind of framing. I don't know if this would require a cross stick here. You know, your regular spreader. Probably, you know, because I mean, this creates the same thing as an X. Hanging onto this point and this point would create an X, and then, so that would be like Ohashi style. Eiji Ohashi, Japanese, famous kite maker. Built, you know, rectangular kites, and instead of cross sticks, he put a bow on top, a bow on the bottom. Basically this. Right? And we've flown this with just sometimes bridle from here and here, or just one point up at the top. That's another floater.
Ronnie, Ohashi, that was his concept, was no bridle.
The no bridle kite, right? It's just
Single point.
a single point up at the top. Now, to build a train where you suspend all those kites that way from one line, I like that. To fly it independently, they wander around with a no bridle. So I do prefer something that you can adjust, right? So what do I do with this kite instead? We put, again, my famous yoke on it and a point here and connect these two. Do that again. My owl kites, my starlight kites are done that way. I'm gonna go ahead and make one. I put these little winglets, and that'll enable me to explain this billow thing to you guys. So instead of putting the point here and the point there, we got a bow here and a bow there. Typically, like I said, these Ohashi kites are bridled the way I just described a minute ago. I choose to do mine from the spreader and put a yoke there with a fixed point there and another point here and connecting with your toe point there. Having it that way, having that yoke, I'm able to do the left to right. If the kite is leaning, I can move the prosec, the center prosec, I can move it to the left or to the right.
Prosec being a knot.
Everybody knows what a rings.
Yeah, run. Yeah.
Many times in the past, I used rings. You know, I find center and put a ring there and tie everything to that ring. We got rid of the hardware on the rings. So again, just like the Eddy, this is bridled the same way, just a 3-point bridle. But instead of, the reason why I don't like bridles only on the spine, there's only one reason. In light winds, I don't like the yawing. You guys familiar with this? Watching a flat kite doing this on its way up. That really bugs me. I don't know why. It's just like a personal thing, you know? So I prefer that yoke. Not only I can adjust from left to right, but it firms up the kite. The kite climbs. I get that quick climb and I get up in the air quickly. And it also enables a back glide. Does anybody understand the concept of back glide on a kite?
No.
That is your gain to altitude. When you have a kite that you release line and it just kind of falls to the ground, as opposed to a kite that when you release the line, that kite flies as good backwards as it does forward when you pull on the line. It back glides. Well, as it's back gliding, it's taking line out, right? What happens when you stop it? You become the anchor.
And it goes straight up.
And it goes straight up. So that's how we gain space quickly and we get in the sky where the wind's at. Instead of trying to fly with cars blocking, with buildings, big kite, whatever, blocking your wind. You need that back glide. The Astroglide kite of mine does that. If I lose that kite, I got to go to China to find it probably because it'll just keep going, keep going. But that's not the only kite. There's a good rokaku will do the same thing. It'll just disappear.
If it doesn't, you don't win battles.
Hey, Ron. You have about 5-10 minutes. You want to show and tell? The
Okay. So we could go on for hours and hours, obviously.
Yeah.
Just
tell it's a subject that is very.
It's pretty deep, you know. So we've covered some shapes and stuff like that. But above all, what I want you to keep in mind is work on relating your bridles to your frame. Okay? That right there will set you free eventually. You know, you said, oh yeah, I put these 2 points in here, man. I was able to bond. Now suddenly the kite is really stiff and it goes up and it climbs, it's tight, you know. It's billowing where it needs to be to spill wind and so forth, which rokakus need. One more thing I want to do before we go to that. We were talking about billow. I found a way to kind of like force that billow to that upper half, the way you guys were asking, on this kite with these winglets, okay? The owls that are out there, the starlights that are out there have this form. It kind of resembles a saruga, if you will, if everybody's familiar with the Japanese saruga. And how this developed in a wider form, everybody's calling them poster genkis, these kites. They're really ohashi kites, the rectangular kite that Scott had out. Somebody called them poster genki. So I said, if that man can call that a poster genki, I'm going to come up with my own name for my design, my modification. Oh, okay. So I called it Hoshikono. In Japanese, that means star child. So let me do this real quick before we go there.
That's okay, I'm your Vanna White. Not quite as tall or as skinny, but that's okay.
We're your Vannas.
So we took that rectangular shape, right? This is the same thing, but with a single stick, right? That's your poster genki. I took and I tapered it. Took that corner out and turned that into winglets, 2 spines. And then we tapered this. And that, sorry about my lousy drawings here. And we bridle from here, there, just like your standard thing. This is still a ohashi kite, even though I called it something different, okay? So because of this angle and this and these winglets, it's pushing the billow right here, where I was talking about, all right in this section, okay? Then it becomes very, very, very stable. These freaky kites sometimes need tails, sometimes they don't. I still haven't figured that out. Why one day you can be flying them with tails, and the next day, no tails at all. Tails hanging from here, you know. Great kite for graphics here, or one big giant graphic. But this pushes that idea of pushing the wind up into that upper part, okay? All right, so
So you've got
let's go to the figure kites.
These are framed similar.
Let's turn it up the other way here.
Let me know when I can do that.
Yeah, and I have the bridle completely out.
All right. Some of you may be familiar with some of the figure kites that I've done in the past. It wasn't part of the plan, but I figured, well, once we're standing there, let's talk about figure kites. For those who are interested in kites that have a shape and how you support that, okay? So here you see your frame. I mean, spacing these sticks is also very important, and it's got to do with your bridles. You see a lot of bridle support, a lot of points supporting this frame.
Which way does that fly? Like you show it or up a hop? No. Like that. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, it's a photo opportunity, right? Come on, work with him.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got tons and tons of frame support in here. So do we need giant sticks? No. You can see how they change. They go from really tiny to about a 1200 to about a 21, and to tiny, you know.
And talk about that.
So the antenna being supported, this I was able, because of the lack of curve, you could support this with carbon or fiberglass. Pretty good sized stick here. These are Reeves sticks, but this gives me a nice stiff spine, and you would think it's heavy, but it's not. These sticks are very light. They wouldn't put them in a Rev. So here's a case, the point that I'm going to try to make. On a figure kite, an inside curve most of the times does not require extra framing other than what you see here. We want that billow there, right? It's a seashell. So the wind is actually augmenting this even more. So in the sky, these become even more pronounced, okay? So no sticks necessary in here. But when we have an outer curve, we do have to put that sleeve and carbon or fiber. I mean, this is fiberglass here, and it comes all the way to here, into the corner here, to support this outer part. Okay? You can do it without. If I take that stick out of there and fly it, it's going to fly, but it's also going to develop billow and create drag. And because the kite is almost asymmetric, right? I mean, this looks asymmetric, right? Yeah. Kinda. There's the same amount of material here than there is there. That was the complexity of building this thing. It drove me crazy trying to figure this out. And getting this thing to fly, also the same thing until I figured it out. So how do we make asymmetric things fly? Two ways. Same amount of, no matter what extremities you have one way or the other way, on the upper part of the kite or on the lower part of the kite, that weight distribution needs to be equal. But never, never, ever think about offsetting the frame of the kite according to the shape of it. In other words, let's not move the center stick over there to get things even out over here. You still have to start from center on all your figure kites. The same thing with the bridles. You can do off center on your bridle point, on your yokes, you know, as you make all the yokes. The top one, the second one, if the kite's going off a little bit, you can move to the left if it's going to the right a little bit. So now all your bridles do line up, but there's a couple of them that are off to one side a little bit, okay? Center is important every single time on every kite. So this kite right here, if you stand it up, the hair, this was also quite a project to do with the hair like that.
If you want to walk
Yeah.
over and check. Yeah, and I have the bridle pulled out on this one so you can see the cascade bridle.
Yeah, that will be an easy one to show.
Yep.
So we got to hold the hair.
Out there, long bridles.
Making a template for the hair here was really something. Was quite a.
Thank you, Ron.
And then unifying the sail by not having a center line here and making all of this fit. That was also quite a bit of a challenge. As this was 3 times the amount of work to get things to line up and layering and knowing what goes where to give this 3D effect that you get from the design, from the crab in the sky, when it's popping out of the shell. That's another thing that's visualizing all of that is difficult, you know, and takes a little bit of experimentation. So
You got a question right over in the corner, Ron?
yeah.
Yeah.
Who's got?
You're
your framing, the center stick, it extends over the top. Is that aesthetic or is that structural?
Tensioning. I'll explain that too. Okay. So
Do you want to?
the hair required its own.
It's in there.
Yeah. So we got fiberglass in here, with fancy whatever. I came up with these. I use these electrical clamps sometimes for hinges and so forth. But it does require that sleeve that we've been talking about. So it's connected here and there. Okay. So this keeps out stiff. It cannot. I mean, if it was loose, it wouldn't look very good in the sky, right? It would billow, and the hair. I mean, it would look like that. It would look like this. So.
But you want to show the?
Okay. Bow lines, standard stuff. The sliders these were made with the tubes, the old. Yesterday, all of you guys saw the new slider that Lindsay and I collaborated on. But Lindsay basically took this idea and just took it to the next level.
Are they available, by the way?
Lindsay?
Yes.
Yeah, custom made. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll write down the info at the end of this.
Okay.
Yep.
So, in here, what's all of this, right? A million different ways. We can put a T here and have this T in there. We can put a stick from here to here, to stretch out the corners. I choose to make a sleeve here and put a stick in there and do what you see here. So this line goes into that ring, comes to here, back out, and through the middle and out. It's kind of an in and out. You can do them independently. You could put one string here and another here with its own sliders. I can do the same thing with just the one, okay? Here and on this side. So all of this is connected and they're going into independent rings. You can make all of this go into the end cap all in one, but it has a tendency to get twisted when you put the kite away. So running all these lines into separate rings keeps this separate and together and untangled. So with this, see now that's all loose. With this, I can tension the whole kite. It's pulling here, it's pulling here, in the middle, and in the middle. When you don't do that, you get wrinkles here. Because this is not tight. It's not in the middle. You're pulling from here, but everything in the middle is loose. So you either do the middle by itself, and then these separately, or you can do the whole thing in one by what I'm showing you here. So
I'll add with this guy, like if we've had it up flying for an extended period of time, especially here at the beach, right? It's absorbing moisture. It is going to take on a little bit and it's going to loosen up and you'll be surprised. It's nice to have that little adjustment that it could be like, okay, bring it down, adjust it, and it goes back and it looks perfectly taut in the sky.
This,
Both ways going from here to a very dry climate.
Yep.
in all your kites, another great thing to keep in mind, cellular kites in particular, the ones, built quite a few of them, tensioners everywhere. A box kite or a cellular piece, a three-dimensional kite needs to be tight to perform well. When things are floppy and the sails are loose, they just kind of, they never come up high where they need to be. They're just like kind of there. They feel wet, I would say, right? So having these capabilities to be able to pull from here, from this corner, from that corner, enables you to tighten the kite up. Because things are going to change during the day. You start now, let's say you have 7 kites in the sky. And then you got one slightly leaning to the right, and you don't bring it down and correct that, that kite will take out all of them 45 minutes later. Okay?
Hey, Ron. We are pretty much at time, so if you want to open it up for questions, and then we'll keep these out if anyone wants to see.
And I'm going to stay here to answer more questions.
Built part of a cascade bridle.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
Oh, let me stand this. Let me extend this thing. We didn't do that.
Let's see if we can show the cascade bridle real quick.
Let's bring the point over here in the tent.
But here's the bigger version.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
There we go.
I'll see if I can back up a little.
Okay.
Oop, hold on. Stay. Yeah, the joys of so much bridle line.
Okay, so my toe point here is broken for some reason. It doesn't matter.
Cat chewed it. He chewed off the end. Oh. Yeah.
Can anybody see all of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Look what happens. See if you can, Nick, put the kite, Nick, put the kite sideways to me. All right. You guys see all of that? Okay. For some reason, the toe point is way down here.
Yeah.
Let's say that's my toe point right there. Again, back to what I said, that I can fly this kite from here and make my adjustments from the ground without hooking a line, and then hook a line to fly it.
So everything's floating except the upper one.
Exactly. This is floating. You see this?
Yeah.
See, all of them are loose. All these loops are loose. So watch what happens as I move up. I'm moving my toe point. See how everything is coming with. I know the lower ones are dangling because. No. I mean, they're going to dangle because I'm only pulling from the upper half. Okay. So look what happens. Low toe point. Things begin to tighten up, right? All right. Sometimes, like in Japanese style Edo bridles, long bridles that are kind of got a pretty good dangle become stability. It's almost like a tail. A bridle like this can create something similar. In a clean wind, you can fly the kite just off the upper end only, and the rest of the bridles kind of dangle. They become drag and they become stability as well. So right about there is the toe point for this kite. Okay.
I think that should be a signature from now on for your kites.
What, the cat chewing off the end?
So this is how it works, right? You saw me move up and down and how it all followed. Does it matter what length this is or this or that? Not really. Just make all the yokes even, the same size. But these look.
The darker orange. So there's orange and there's yellow. This darker orange, that's the yoke. That's what he's talking about. This is the yoke.
That was aesthetics. It doesn't have. It's all going to be one color.
But it helps. It helps to point out.
Yeah. So there's the classic cascade.
From here, from where it attaches to the kite, do you see that first junction?
To the float here.
So right in front of you, right there. You see that?
Yeah.
That.
Move this out of the way because real quick, I'm going to
That's the
demonstrate something. Give me 5 more minutes.
Can you hold it, Rhonda? Yeah.
I can demonstrate it with.
Yeah, with the bigger. I'm gonna.
Okay.
That's hands-on.
Real quick, like
Makes sense.
here's a 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. Units could be that section there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm illustrating it this way. So how do we connect this? Cascade it. 1 loop, sliding ring. Connect that one to the second one, sliding ring. You can do a single from here to here and then a single from there to there, or pair those up. Then you come in from the outside with another loop, and then from this one to this one, also with sliding rings. Yeah, slider. And then your toe point here somewhere, okay? These can all be the same. These are going to be a little bit longer, and the longest one is going to be your last one or outer. The same thing with a triple. Yoke, yoke, yoke. We connect that one, and then from this one we connect to that one, and your fixed point. So that's like a 1-point sliding ring there.
But you've larks headed those rings.
Yeah.
So how will they slide?
How will they what?
How will they slide?
Well, you're locked onto one end, you're only locked to one end. This is free floating there in the middle of the line. It's not, it's only locked here at the fixed points. Yeah.
Would you please mark the sliding ring as opposed to the plastic knots on this schematic?
Oh, like circle the sliding?
Circle the line.
The reason
To circle where you do that.
Now, let's do that again. What?
I'm not sure.
This is a prosec deer. This is your bridle point.
And the sliding rings can mount them in there.
This is a sliding ring right here. Sliding ring, sliding ring, sliding ring. Fixed ring or prosec. You can put prosec here.
Then you can adjust your
Correct.
yaw.
Sorry. Prosec, 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 and prosec. Slide, slide, slide. So
And then the attachment.
the fixed things can be anything you want it to be. The prosec helps you adjust from left to right very easily. A ring there can also, but then you have to sit there and pull on one side or the other. Okay.
Just which ones are fixed.
All of this is really difficult to do in 1 hour because there's a lot of material. Kiting magazine for those who belong to the association. The issue that's got the snail kite that belongs to me on the cover, okay, has got a schematic of the, it's an issue from about 2-3 years ago or 4 years ago. It's got a schematic on the back page of the Cascade bridle, okay, with ABCs on it, you know.
And we do have that tutorial coming out between.
Where we explain, we're going to redo that one. We're going to simplify it a little bit where it explains the cascade. Not a whole lot of people here that come here that build kites don't know about it or use this system already. There's dozens of kites that are here with this on. I want to take a moment here to thank everyone for their attendance. The amount of people that were here were rather overwhelming. Very proud to have you all here, and unfortunately in 1 hour it's very difficult to cover such extensive material, but I bid you good bidding in the future. Always available online. You can reach me on Facebook and Instagram. You can see more videos in the future on the subject matter with Fortuna Found. Thank you once again.